This video is going to show you how to make an elevation as a lighting designer. You'll need this skill because this is something we use when we figure out our side light. You'll notice that in an elevation that the set designer gives you, all of the detail is included. This is what the scenic designer needs, but we don't need all of this information. We really only need the change in height. That's what we're concerned with. Because you can see, the higher the person is, if this person were down here, they would be at a different part of the beam. The beam would actually be bigger than if it were up here. So to make sure that our actors are covered, we need to know exactly where they are on these steps and on the stage. We're doing our own because in the real world, you may not get all of the elevations you need from the scenic designer. You often have to do a few yourself, especially if the set works in multiple configurations like this one does. So for this exercise, we'll be using the set in the configuration that it's in for most of the play, with both platforms pushed together. In class, we'll be using the set as it is for the very last moment, but you do it the same way. The first thing I've done is tape my paper near this line where the border and legs are. We want to do that because what we're concerned about is what the audience sees. So they would see from here to here. All of the masking and the walls would cut their vision off here. So I don't actually need to see what's up here for the purposes of this exercise. The first thing I'm going to do is draw a line at the bottom of the page, and it can be somewhat arbitrary as long as it's straight. This is going to serve as our baseline. This is the line of the floor. So this is our 0 inches above the ground mark. I'm going to begin by putting in the theater walls and making a box. So all I do is follow the outside of the walls up on both sides, and make some tick marks. Then I want to see how high these walls are. So I get that information from the section, and I use my 1/4 inch scale rule to measure that the walls here are 14 feet high. So I come over here and measure 14 feet and make a tick, 14 feet, make a tick. Then I'm going to connect these dots to make the wall. And here's my ceiling. So that's the boundaries of the theater. The next thing I want to know as the lighting designer is where the lighting grid is. It's dropped down just a little bit from the ceiling. So again, using my scale ruler, the grid is 13 feet off of the floor. So I'm going to measure 13 feet and 13 feet on each side. When I connect them, there's my grid. I'm going to label this. The next thing I'm going to do is start drawing the set in. I'm going to start with the set walls here and the black masking behind it. So when you measure these walls and the masking, make sure you're going all the way from the floor to where they end, which is right at the bottom of that black border. Make sure you don't start on the platform. These are both 10 feet high. So I'm going to find at the edge of the wall, which is right here, and the edge of the masking, which goes all the way to the theater wall. And I'm going to make some ticks on the ground in my elevation. So I know these are 10 feet high, so I'm going to measure up 10 feet. And connect the dots. So this here is my house wall, and these are my legs. Now, this set also has a border. You can see that it's masking some of the electrics, but not others. So I'm still going to draw this border in because we would still see these pipes here. So I'm actually going to measure down from the grid since I know how high that is. And this border is 3 feet, 6 inches down from the grid. So I'm going to connect those dots. And that's my border. Now what I'm going to do is the border is a little bit longer than the house, so I wouldn't see this as the audience member. So now I have my border, my legs, and this is the house wall. I'm labeling this for clarity in the video. You do not have to label this. The next step is the really important part. It shows how high the characters are going to be and where they're going to be when they're at that height. So in the plan, each of these levels is labeled by the scenic designer. If I needed to, I could also find these heights by measuring in the section. So I'm going to start with the main deck area. That's this here. This is 2 feet, 2 inches off of our zero line, off of the ground. So I'm going to find the edges of that platform, come straight up from here and make a tick, and come straight up from here and make a tick. And measure 2 feet, 2 inches up. And as usual, connect the dots. So now I have the first platform. The next thing I need is the stairs. I have 14 inches, so that's 1 foot, 2 inches, and 7 inches. So these are 7-inch steps. Same thing. And now I have those side steps. The next steps we're going to see, we're seeing them dead on, so we're not actually going to see the tiers in the exact same way, but I'm going to do it in the same way. I'm going to find the edge of the platform, tick, tick, and then I know that these steps go up to this top. So I'm gonna go ahead and draw in knowing that there's a level change here that goes from the ground to the top of the platform. The next thing I'm gonna do is measure 7 inches up and 1 foot 2 inches up, which I've already done here. So I'm just going to connect those dots. And the set designer has all of the molding and the banisters, but we're not concerned with that right now as lighting designers. I only need to see where this person can stand. So that's how you make an elevation. And we'll be using this when we figure out our light that comes from the sides.